In this video, I'm going to explain the Paragon board system in Diablo 4. This is a new endgame system that's going to allow you to continue to progress your character's power after level 50 when you stop earning skill points. I'm going to go over the anatomy of the Paragon board and give you some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way from respecking a ton and getting to level 100 on my sorcerer. But this guide is going to be for all classes, so stick around. First, let's talk about what is the Paragon board. So at level 50, you're going to unlock the Paragon board. You're going to receive 4 points per level. You'll notice that from the notches on your level bar. You can also earn Paragon points from your map renown. So if you go and look at your region progress, you can see the last unlock here is 4 Paragon points, and that is per area as well. So make sure you pick those up because those are huge. Your Altars of Lilith are also going to carry over for Season 1, so make sure you complete those on your way to getting those 4 Paragon points. In total, if you do all of this, you're going to earn 225 total points to work with at max level on each class. Now at first, this Paragon board system is going to seem really overwhelming because there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of boards you have to pick from, glyphs and nodes, but I'm going to break it down for you. Each Paragon board has the same features. First up, we have the normal nodes. These are just +5 to a stat. It's going to be intellect, strength, willpower, and dexterity. You can see it by the icons here. These are the points that you're using just to get you through the board and to unlock your glyphs, which we'll get to later. Then we've got the blue nodes, which are the magic nodes. These are going to give you minor boosts to damage. It could be minor resistances, and it also could be +7 to a stat. These nodes can come in handy when you're trying to unlock the additional bonus on your glyphs. And each board has different ones, so make sure you mouse over all of them and check them out. And then we've got the yellow rare nodes. These are going to most likely provide a +10 bonus to your stat. And then they also have other bonuses, some big damage bonuses like this one, 20% non-physical damage for elemental balance, but you could also get resistances as well. Instead of the 10 to your main stat, you could also get another damage bonus or damage reduction like here on oppressive, which is really nice. There are some with resistance, which we know resistance is pretty bad in the game right now. They haven't really fixed that yet. So I would go more towards the damage nodes and the damage reduction nodes. However, with rare nodes, you want to make sure you're unlocking that additional bonus. You can see here we've got another 10% non-physical damage if the requirements are met. So if we get 350 dexterity, so keep in mind that as we move forward, and I give you some of those tips about how to unlock those secondary rare node effects. The next piece of the Paragon board is the legendary node. These are unique effects or bonuses specific to your class, and the name of this node is used to name the board itself. So for instance, we have Frigid Fate here. This is the Frigid Fate board. Dealing cold damage to vulnerable increases your lucky hit chance up to 15%. So these are going to be very specific to your class, to your abilities, to your different builds that you have, and there's going to be one on each board. They can be a boost to damage, they can be utility like this static surge one, so just make sure to go through and read all of them. But it's also important to note that you do not need to take these legendary nodes. You do not have to take any of these nodes, in fact, if you don't want to, as long as you're moving through the board and connecting the boards together through these board attachment gates, which also give you stat bonuses, by the way. But attaching the boards through this way, all you have to do is go as efficiently or not efficiently as you want through each board, and you don't have to take those legendary nodes. So make sure you read them, and if you do go for them, make sure they are valuable to your build, because in a lot of cases, in a lot of the boards, they're out of the way. All right, the last part to the Paragon board system is glyphs. You'll discover these as you play endgame activities like Nightmare Dungeons and the Tree of Whispers. They're different for every class, and they have a few that overlap, but there might be minor differences that you'll notice. However, you're going to want to slot these glyphs into the glyph slots in each board. Each board has one glyph slot. You can see the range here because I've slotted those glyphs in. Initially, the rare glyphs are going to have this range right here. This is a rare glyph. It's level 9, so we haven't increased the range yet. That's a smaller one, and then if we go up here, this is a bigger one that has been increased. So you want to focus on getting glyph XP as much as you can from levels 50 to 70. You're going to want to get a few of your glyphs to level 15. Level 15 is when the range expands out, allowing for more nodes so you can boost up your stats on your glyph. So for instance, this one, Imbiber damage while healthy, we have 39 out of 25 willpower, so we've unlocked our additional bonus, and now we have 39 willpower. For every 5 willpower, we're getting an increase to that damage while healthy, so you just want to go around and grab your willpower nodes. Now we could go out and get this one, which was not available when we had a smaller radius. So I've already given you guys a couple tips just explaining the anatomy of the Paragon board, but let's get into the tips that I've learned over respecing so many times, trying out different builds and trying to find the most efficient way through the Sorcerer Paragon tree. I feel like I've developed a pretty good strategy for setting one up regardless of class. I feel like the strategy works the same, but basically you want to keep 2 things in mind when you're first looking at your Paragon boards. Number 1, the glyphs you slot into each board are going to have a minimum stat requirement to unlock the secondary effect. So like we were talking about Imbiber, you need 25 willpower to unlock the additional bonus, which is you gain 30% increased potion healing. And then secondly, that glyph's main power may benefit from putting more points into that stat. So for instance, Imbiber gets more damage while healthy for every 5 willpower that you put in. It's going to get another 8% on top. But, and here is a huge tip, keep in mind that some glyphs do not benefit from additional stat nodes. So an example is Tactician here. This one is going to grant 125% bonus to all rare nodes within the range. That's the yellow ones around here. You need 25 dexterity to unlock that additional bonus. You deal 10% increased damage for 4 seconds after casting a defensive skill. However, increasing our amount of dexterity in this range is not going to increase that first effect anymore. And then speaking of a secondary effect, here's your next tip. The rare nodes also have a minimum stat requirement. We were kind of talking about this earlier. Your rare nodes, the yellow nodes on each board, are going to have a bonus if you meet the stat requirement. So for example, another 22% vulnerable damage if requirements are met. And that Tactician is boosting that. So that is a huge bonus. And we definitely want to make sure we are always hitting these rare nodes. For the most part, on all of them, you're going to want to hit them. Some of them, like this one, I don't really care about. Cold resistance is obviously not that great. Now, if they buff resistances and fix them, then this is definitely really good. But you want to make sure you have those minimum requirements for all your rare nodes across all your Paragon boards. But the really important tip to learn here about these rare nodes' secondary effects is that those requirements actually go up the further the board is away from your starting board. So for instance, our starting board here, our rare nodes are 200, 170, 170. Then we go to our second board, we've got 250, 270, 270. We go to our third board, we're up to 350, 350, 460, but this is our main stat, so that makes sense. 340. We're going up to our fourth board, including our starting board, and we've got 605, which is intelligence, our main stat, 450, 440, and 610. And then we go to our next board. This is our 5th board, including our starting board. And this one is going to be 530 and 740. Now you can see I don't meet those requirements. However, this is on a lightning build, so I don't really care about the fire damage requirements, which is also why I strategically put this board up here, because this was the only one I was getting and I didn't care about the secondary bonus. And then there's even another board up here that I got because I do want this armor and the reduction from elites. And I also want that secondary bonus, but I put it up here because it is an intellect bonus and I have plenty of intellect because that is my main stat. So make sure when you're setting up your Paragon board, or you're maybe following a guide or planning out what you're going to do for the season, make sure you look at your board and see how many rare nodes you're trying to unlock and which ones you want the secondary bonus on. You can go to sites like d4builds.gg and you can play around with a Paragon board and check to see if you've unlocked everything. It'll actually show you the requirements on here for each board as you go through. So you can go through and make sure that you have all the requirements before spending the gold in game to play around with it. But you really just want to glance and see how many rare nodes you want and put those boards towards the beginning of your setup. So you can see these are my 2 main boards that I fill up a lot of. I go into 4 rare nodes here and 4 rare nodes here, and then I go up here. These are 3 rare nodes, which I still unlock all of them because it's dexterity and intellect, which are my 2 highest, intellect being my top, and then dexterity is over 450. I always try to make sure it's over 450 for those nodes, and then these 2 are going to be intellect. So that's how you want to set up the order of your boards based on the number of rare nodes that you want to reach. If you have a board chock full of really great rare nodes, you want to consider putting it right after your starting board so that you can unlock everything. The other thing you want to look at is which legendary nodes you want to unlock, because those are going to be a little bit out of the way. You do want to plan on how you're going to get there, and always remember that you can go back through a board. If you were to come up around here and say come back through here, you can do stuff like that. So if you wanted to get this enchantment master legendary node, there might be a case for coming up around here, coming out through here, putting a couple boards, and then coming back through to end right here. Even though for this particular board, it might just be just as fast to do that because it's kind of a weird, I don't know, this board is set up so weird. The next tip I want to show you guys is on the external site d4builds.gg. If you are trying to slot your glyphs in your boards and you want to know which glyph should go in which board and which stats you want to focus on in that range, you can set your Paragon boards up and then you can look at each board and it will tell you how many of that stat are in that glyph's radius. Now the radius is level 15, so it's going to show you the max range. However, you can use this to map out which glyphs you're going to put where. So for instance, our Frigid Fate board has 70 intellect, so that will be a really good intellect board. Our starting board also has 70 intellect, but it has 39 dex, which is fairly high for our boards. And we've got a willpower board. We've got a really high dex and intellect on this board. I decided to go dexterity and put my exploit glyph here. But those are things you want to keep in mind when you're trying to pair the glyph to which board. But you also want to keep in mind that not all boards are created equal. This one has 70 intellect, but that intellect may be at an awkward place to go grab. Say you're not really going down to these nodes down here and you don't want to pick up that extra intellect. Keep that in mind too. If it's not a super efficient way that you're already going, it might not be worth picking up those extra nodes. Or you might be better off using a different glyph. But those are my major tips from respeccing so much. Also keep in mind that you can grab like an extra board just like this. Through the board attachment gate, you're gonna get stats across the board, which is really nice. And you can maybe pick up a nice rare node, like we have damage reduction from elites. All over here, we've got armor, 200 armor, which is pretty big for sorcerer since I don't get armor normally. easily. Or if there's a legendary node that's close to a connector as well, you could just pick that up. I think for the most part, people are going for 4 or 5 boards plus the starting. I don't think anybody is doing a ton of boards, but there is something to be said about going super efficiently through each board and just picking up the glyph. However, I have found more success making sure I am unlocking as many nodes as I can to boost the glyph as high as I can. For instance, this vulnerable damage one uses dexterity. I don't have any more dex nodes I could get in this range. I literally got all of them because I think it's super important. They're also really convenient to get. They're just right here, right a few off the chain, and then we go straight on through. I pick up the legendary node and we're out. However, if I didn't want to get these damage to stun, I could probably just go straight up and save a couple points, but there's a lot of optimizing to be done on the Paragon board, but I feel like this one actually is pretty optimized. But that is the Paragon board. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment down below if you have any questions, and if you'd rather have a written guide, there's going to be a guide on our website, dpscheck.gg, and I'm also going to be streaming over at twitch.tv/abbyhour, so check me out there as well, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.